So, Jan, it is coming up to almost a year since we started Hyperfocus, and I think we have learnt a lot in the last 12 months. And I really wanted to sit down with you and look at actually 6 points that we also came together to create, that we believe are super important learnings that we've had, and to discuss them. And hopefully the people out there as well also can take some of the mistakes and some of the things that we've also done right with them, and maybe even use them themselves and apply them in some way, or just to sit and listen to us as usual waffle on for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, learning, that's what we do, right? That's
every
part
day
of the game.
every day. Yes.
And so the most important learnings, I mean, I guess there are like a lot. I think we had actually trouble putting them together, but I think we have 6 very interesting ones. So let's jump straight in.
Let's jump straight in, shall we? Yes.
All right. So the first one is actually comes from you, Paul. Rituals make the world go round.
Yeah, and actually, I surprised myself that I'm even having this conversation. If I'd have been able to meet myself 10 years ago, I don't think I'd recognise myself, to be honest, because rituals never played any part in anything of what I did. I think you often believe from the outside that the creative process is lots of people sat on beanbags having a good old chin wag,
Smoking weed.
Doing all that stuff and coming up with great ideas and waiting for that eureka moment. It doesn't really work like that. And I think actually when a creative or creative studios are left to their own devices, in that sense, you see people getting burnt out and you see complete chaos. And a studio might have this great reputation of amazing creativity, but actually the reality of it, there is no structure around it. And you need structure to orchestrate creativity, because you need to have periods of focus to actually focus on the right things to have great results. And rituals, for me, have been a huge part of that. And I can even go back to some of the advice I used to give some of my freelance friends as well. They would always say, how do you deal with when you don't have a booking? And I'd always say, when you don't have booking, you have to continue to work in the way that you would expect to when working on a job, right? So you need some kind of structure in your life. You need to get up at the same time, you need to take a lunch break, brush your teeth, put some pants on, go outside, and find something that you're also interested in. Put your energy into something. Don't just wait for the next job, because if you do that, it will also send you crazy. But taking that mindset and bringing that into a studio environment, I think, is super important. And using Scrum techniques, for example, where we have dailies, we have retros, we have weeklies. It allows your team to have some kind of anchor. And the anchor helps to give you some kind of stability, and that's super important. Even if it's a 10-minute daily, just to check in, and so everybody knows what you're doing. And it's not really a matter of the idea of monitoring in some way. It's it's really it's about having that connection with your team, and right now it's more relevant than ever with people being stuck at home, that you do actually have a space where you can come together and collaborate in a focused time frame, because you ain't creative like from 9 till 6 or from 6 till 12 at night continually. You have short bursts, And if you can have like a bit more of a controlled environment where you're designated just to focus on that, then the results are going to be much better. You're going to feel like you've achieved more because you have designated times to focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you explained that already. Very, very good. But I mean, because for me, I would have considered myself like a well-structured person before, but because you brought in this rituals, all mainly coming from, because you're working in digital product development, that's where they come from. So these were kind of new to me.
Yeah.
So it's also the idea not being structured myself, like having like a more global structure for the organization. And yeah, I really enjoy working like that. So it's pretty fun. And as from what I can see, also the people we work with enjoy working like this.
Well, that's the thing. It's about incubating a culture.
Yeah.
And every collective studio group of people need to have something that they believe in, right? They need to have some kind of foundation, because if you don't have that, how is anybody else gonna, love what you're doing? And at the very core, having these things which allow people to be their best selves, is super important for future growth and also the growth of the people around you as well.
Yeah. So the second learning comes from me, and which is positioning works but takes time.
And what do you mean by that, Jan?
What do I mean? Positioning. So the idea is you can be either a generalist.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, you have a restaurant and you make pizza and you make French cuisine and you have Asian food, all in the same restaurant. Or you are very specialized and you say, I make the best Belgian French fries of the world. Just the Belgian French fries, and these are the best you can get all around the world. So that's very specialized. Yeah. And yeah, we decided to be more specialized, so to have a stronger positioning. In our case, is building brands for digital startups. And yeah, first of all, you think, or it seems to be a bit scary to do that, because you think, oh man, what about all the other opportunities who land on my desk and I cannot take them? Do I have to say no to all of them? But I want to do everything. I think it's also the nature of a creative person to, be open to everything and try to do everything. But also when you, get and try to be on the other side of this conversation, so being the client. Also, like when I go back to the example of the restaurant, for you, it's much easier to decide when okay, that's a spaghetti restaurant and they do awesome spaghetti. That's all they do. And that's much more convincing than going to a place where they have pizza, sushi, and doner kebab.
Well, I always thought that it'd be really catchy for us to be called Hyperfocus and More.
And more.
Yeah. And then would be waiting for that call for people to ask me what is the and more part of what you do, and actually I won't be able to answer that. So.
Yes. So, of course, first like a lot of new jobs when we just opened came from our close network, and then not all of them were digital startups. Of course, you have to work your way to reach these people. So and that's what we see more and more is happening. But it takes time. You need to be clear about what you're doing all the time. You need to create content which goes in this direction. And after a year, I would say we can see it starts working, but it still takes time. Yeah.
The art of saying no.
Learning to say no. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a super important one, and I think this only comes from actual experience. And as you said before, like back in the day, you'd often want to try and be a yes man to every opportunity that comes your way. But actually by saying no over and over again actually helps you to understand who you are and defines you as a business. You're not the company that just does logos. You're not the company that just does letterheads or just does websites, right? You've gone out to specifically service a certain part of the industry with your speciality, and with the people that you work with and with your network, and that's what you do and that's what you're focused on. But the only way that you can be known for that is by saying no to all of the other things. If you say yes to all the things along the way, then you never get the chance to actually do the stuff that you want to, because people keep coming to you and recognizing you for all the things that you said yes for in the first place. So actually, no, it's one of the hardest things to, it actually gets easier to say no, but I think for a lot of people, it's one of the hardest things to say.
Yeah, and I think it's part of growing and getting more experiences. At the beginning, when you just finish university, you have to say yes to everything and take every opportunity. That's how you grow, that's how you learn. And the more experience, the more mature you get, the more often you say no to things. You have to say no to things to make really clear what you stand for, and take the opportunities to also help you to get stronger and better in what you do.
I think like we were also, I wouldn't say privileged, but when we started the studio, we came from a shared passion and a shared idea of how something should be done, and how we could possibly build a process and build a design studio. And a lot of agencies and studios are actually built on a single client. So what often happens is one of the team members will leave and take a client with them, and out of necessity they will build a company. There is a certain kind of danger in that, because if you lose that client, then it's game over. You really have to kind of you start to have to reinvent yourself from a certain level of maturity that you're already at, which can be very, very difficult. But we took a slightly different route and just jumped straight into it, with the idea of our principles, our learnings, our experience as being the driving force for making this thing hopefully successful.
That it's not just our decision if we are a good fit for our client or project.
Okay.
What I want to say with that is, we kind of managed to get in front of like a healthy amount of people, like within the last year, I would say. And sometimes we were very excited about a project and think, man, that's great. We could do something really good for them. Sometimes it's the decision of the person on the other side of the table, and also they might even think it's a good idea to work with us. It makes sense. It's great what the people are talking, but the circumstances at this moment are just not right, which means, I don't know, the budget is just too small to do what we think would be the right way to do it, which is maybe quite often the case. And then you have to accept that that's okay. Sometimes like the client has to start something in another way, maybe also smaller than we think he should do, but which doesn't mean that it might not be like a later or another time. He might come back, and then we can have like a good relation.
That's a good point, actually. Always put out positive vibes. That's actually maybe a side note, but it's also a very important thing, because you just never know. You never know what's around the corner, and everybody who comes to you needs help. and it should never be dismissive. Always offer an option. Always offer to help in the best possible way that you can, even if you cannot facilitate and work with that client. Then refer them. Get somebody who's in a slightly different position in their career, who just specifies on that particular need of that client, and recommend. You never know what's around the corner. Always work with positivity and good vibes. When anybody comes and knocks on your door, respond in that manner.
Yeah. Process gives you security. What did you mean by that?
What did I mean by that? So I think it's a little bit comes from the whole idea of rituals. I believe that your secret sauce or your foundations that are very much at your core are the recipe for success. And what I mean by that is that setting up a solid process that is easy to understand and manageable, and that repeats itself and can facilitate the deliverables and objectives that you set out. Having something like this in place as a blueprint gives you a certain sense of confidence and security. Of course, you have to test this thing, and not every one shoe fits all. So every client is different. So you kind of have to work with that model. But by having that process in place and understanding that process and knowing it like the back of your hand is super, super important. If you go into every job without a clue, then I just believe that it's going to be complete chaos, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare on every single side of that relationship, on every single side of that project. Having a common language, a common understanding of process, it just works. And it's a constant evolution, and we have our process, and it's the one that we apply. But it definitely gives you that definite sense of security when a new client comes to you or somebody wants to work with you. You just know exactly how to hit the ground running. Strategy, workshops, stylescapes, all the deliverables that we know that process, and we know how long they take, and we know what you're going to get back out of that. It's just, super important.
And it helps also to build trust, on the client side, right from the beginning. Last one, number 6. Content creation.
Content creation, man. This is
generates leads.
Yeah, I love this because we are sat in front of the camera, and we also had to learn not to be camera shy, and it's still a difficult thing to sit in front of the camera and talk and present, but it gets easier. You kind of find your rhythm. And actually, one of the biggest learnings from creating content is people don't really understand why you're doing it. The amount of times that friends, colleagues, other people that I've known within my network actually say, "You have time for that? Why are you doing that?" I think when we first started it, everyone was super excited. Oh, you're going to be on YouTube, or you're going to make a podcast, or you're going to, create music. Fantastic. As time goes on and we continue to do it, people then question, well, what's the point? And the point is of doing, right? And I mean, there's two sides to this, that when you're looking into the idea of creating content, you often find on YouTube itself saying, just pick up a camera and that's good enough, start creating. And then on the other side, there's have a plan. And I'm a bit of both, right? You can only learn by doing, by actually getting started. But definitely you need to have some kind of objective. And our objective, in a way, there's several levels to it. I mean, I think the main one really is for us to actually get a chance to sit and actually talk and kind of by doing that also validates somewhat in a way what we're actually doing, because we can have these conversations in the office, or we can have these conversations over a beer, or we can have these conversations in front of, you know, a camera, and actually be able to use it in a way that we can also give that stuff back and give that stuff to other people, for them to take and interpret in their own way and actually maybe use it somehow.
Yeah, and it's you know, because you already said that, like, our close, like, family and friends, you know, they were excited first, but then you can tell that they have a lot of question tags in their mind, you know, and asking themselves, man, what the fuck, why are they doing that, you know?
We have this thing, right? Content Friday, right? Yeah. And it sounds like, oh, it's a nice playful thing to do. Google do it, you know, all these big super tech companies do it. But it's really, really important to take that time, and the way that we work, or the way that we treat Hyperfocus is like a client, right? So we have our own Trello boards. We work with our own tickets to kind of push ideas through. We have content creation, like little breakout sessions to try and understand what we want to talk about. It's all really, really important, because the thing is, at the end of the day, we also preach this to people that we work with. This is how you go out and spread your message. This is how you go out and talk with people. And if we can't do it, or at least if we don't try, then you know, you can't. You have to practice what you preach, somewhat, I would say.
Yeah, and what I'm also wanted to say is that we, you know, like, our friends and family are not necessarily our main audience, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Our goal is to get in front of a wider range of people to spread our message, as you said, and that's why content creation is so important, you know. Also to be, you know, visible all the time, you know, and not, because people forget, you know, if they don't hear from you, like, for a few months, then you're gone, and they might, you know, have, like, a problem we can solve, but they don't think about us, because you know, we are just not in their mind.
Yeah.
And because that's why I said it generates leads, it works. So we generated leads through that. We got jobs through our content, and that's proof.
It's not just about jobs though, as well. It's about also making real solid connections with people that you would never ever talk with. We've met so many great people from all over the world who've reached out and started conversations with us, and we've been able to give back, you know, and give advice, and just have relationships that we never ever would have previous to that. So yeah, I mean, there's so much value that comes with creating content from so many different levels, from lead generation to building relationships to validation, and actually having a good laugh and having a lot of fun, because we do have fun with these things, even if it is a little bit intimidating sometimes. We do have fun with it, and I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from any of the last year that I have is I get excited about going to work. I really have a hell of a lot of fun doing what we do, and it gets more and more. And even if, you know, more work comes, I still look forward to content Friday, and I just look forward to learning and doing and building and creating.
Yeah, I guess that was a nice way to wrap it up.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it was a nice chat.
I think maybe we should do this again.
Yeah.